Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast somehow more incompetent than Bali Sports Management. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Vince Morca.
Hey, everyone.
And this week, we are going to be discussing notes from spring training. We're going to talk more about the World Baseball Classic, and we're going to continue our coverage of the other teams in the NL Central. We're talking about the Cubs.
Boo.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Ben, I've got another thing to talk to you about. That's related to soccer, but I think you're gonna like. I think you're gonna like this one because it's me not liking something.
Oh, into it already. Footy.
Yeah, I meant to bring it up last week, and I forgot. So I just wanted to get it out today. So when I went to the footy match,
on the pitch.
We had our tickets were on a goal side, right? So we're not like super close or anything. It was an expensive game, but we're not super far back either. It's not a massive stadium. So I ask the obvious question. If I catch a soccer ball, do I get to keep it?
Yeah.
And I learned no. If the like standard I don't know if it's like a written rule or if it's like literally rule, but if you catch the ball, you're supposed to throw it back into the pitch, right? And I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I think in any sport, if you catch an implement of the sport, it comes to you.
Yeah.
You should be able to keep it.
Yeah. What is MLS has like 3 soccer balls per game? What are we doing here?
I don't know. They have them on little stands behind the goals, and just like, come on, like, I don't know. Do you know in like football, if the ball goes into the stands, you get to keep it?
I have no idea, but if I caught it, I'd be like, mine.
I want to keep it. Yeah. So that's another way where I do think, baseball obviously exceeds soccer. You catch a ball. I don't know if a bat went flying into the stands, if you'd be allowed to keep it, but I'd sure try after I get out of the hospital.
Honestly, I think if the bat goes flying into the stands, the player should not want, like, unless it's their last game or bat that they have or something like that. Like, not only did you catch something, but you caught something that's like so unbelievably dangerous. You earned that bat.
You earned it. Or at least, maybe you have the opportunity to trade it back to the team or to the player. They do. Some of those guys do take their bat seriously, but like, I think it's yours and it's up to you to give it back.
Yeah. Like if Ichiro was still playing and his bat came into the stands, which like there were stories about him like walking through groves and picking out trees with the company and, you know, and he has like a tuning fork that he would use on bats and stuff. If something like that I knew was meticulously curated by a goat like Ichiro, I would probably give it back. But like, if Paul DeYoung, just take it.
Wow, punching down.
That felt mean. I'm sorry, Paul.
Yeah. Well, now they're doing all those special puck bats. But anyway, I just like, come on, you're what are the odds? You get a soccer ball kicked right at you. It's nice. I want to keep it.
Honestly, if I'm at an MLS game, Ben Smorka at an MLS game, and I catch a football, I got to keep it, I might. That's a story to tell. I am saying something positive about the MLS. I'm now a promoter of your league. Right. But if I have to give it back, I'm like, the miserly MLS taking my ball that I earned. I don't know.
Yeah, I earned this.
They kicked it to me. As we're talking, by the way, I know the listeners can't see this, but I have a foul ball that I caught at a Rockies game in my hand.
Wow.
And it's fun.
Yeah. It is fun. Yeah. I mean, it might be obnoxious to like just have to carry around a whole ass soccer ball the rest of the game, but it's your soccer ball. You caught it. They shouldn't have kicked it to you if they didn't want you to keep it.
Or you could, give it to a kid or whatever, be the hero. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. I think it's bullshit, and uh, I hope that they change it. I think in
Oi.
hockey you can keep the puck,
Yeah,
which
100%. 100% you
yeah,
can. Yeah.
yeah.
Oi, you stole me soccer ball. I need that back to play. Oi.
Oi,
Isn't
oi!
it?
I took my soccer ball in it. I don't know if
God.
basketball. This might be how almost every sport except for baseball. I bet basketball you have to give back the ball too.
Yeah. Yeah, basketball, there's like no barrier in between you and the player. Like I would
Yeah,
like if LeBron came up and asked me for a basketball, I'd shake and hand it to him. So I don't know.
yeah.
Different instance there.
Do you see that video where LeBron sat next to that girl and she just like geeked out for like it went viral of a
Oh
few
no.
weeks ago, and then she was like awkwardly asked to take a bunch of pictures next to him because everyone was pointing out how much she was geeking out about him,
Yeah, it's
just
LeBron James. He's like the
making it
most
worse.
he's
Yeah.
the most famous person in the world. That's I don't know. That seems normal to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, listen up, commissioners. You're on notice. You should get to keep the ball. I mean, what with the price of tickets these days? At least
New rule, you get to
new,
keep the
yeah,
ball.
you get to keep the ball. Give them the ball. Oi! All right. Well,
Wow.
that's you probably won't hear me talk about footy too much more, but I did watch it on TV and I liked it. So we'll
Wow.
see. I might be converting.
Who doesn't
SG
love MLS banter to start off a baseball podcast?
STL City 3-0, baby.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's talk about baseball. Um, what do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, I mean, I think we there's some news coming out of spring training camp. I think we got to get into it. We were first. I'll do a quick plug. If you did not listen to the episode of Meet Me at Mutual over the weekend, check that out. We had a great time with C70, as we always do. And one of the main topics of conversation that we had on that episode was Jordan Walker and how does he get a spot on the 40-man roster.
Yeah.
And then we found out earlier this week. We're recording on Wednesday. The Cardinals announced that right-handed relief pitcher Freddie Pacheco, who is somebody we talked to about with Kyle months ago, and somebody who's kind of got like super electric stuff, power slider, isn't always finding the strike zone, but somebody that could probably get big league outs today, maybe inconsistently. Either way, he's been claimed off waivers by the Detroit Tigers, opening up a 40-man roster spot. We were talking about what's the pathway to Jordan finding a spot there. He seems like the obvious candidate to take that spot, assuming there's not a trade or another move going on. But Jordan Walker has his pathway to the big leagues now, or at least the door is open for that potential.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very intriguing move for multiple reasons. And before we go into the implication of the now open 40-man spot, there's also been a lot of talk about Pacheco himself. Like, where'd this come from? Aren't
Yeah.
there like a handful of other dudes on the roster that we would have put above or below Pacheco as far as who you would consider losing? I don't know if maybe there's a lot of theories going around. Maybe there's something we don't know about Pacheco.
He he did have some injury issues coming into spring this year.
Yeah.
But they're pitchers. Many people share that distinction right now
Yeah.
in spring training.
Yeah. And for an organization that has been strikeout starved and seems to be focusing on adding relievers with strikeout potential, it feels strange to cut one of your best in-house options for strikeouts. So this might be a situation where we're going to be talking about it. We're recording on Wednesday, and by the time this episode actually comes out, maybe there's more information about it. But there's a lot of a lot of questioning of this move going on, like why him above so many other guys that seem to have a more obvious reason for cutting. But it is what it is. I'm going to guess that there's a piece of information that we just don't know yet, be it energy or concerns about or injury or concerns about long-term
Yeah.
effectiveness. And, it was obvious that they had to have known putting him on waivers, he'd get grabbed. I don't think they thought they could sneak him through. These are the types of guys that are often passed around on waivers, right? So there must be something we don't have, some
Yeah.
information we don't have.
And like just to throw out a couple of names, and I think we're pulling for Drew Verhagen, but that is somebody. Obviously, he's owed a little bit of money. I don't know if it's enough to stop a move like this, but
Yeah.
is the $2 million guaranteed to uh, Drew Verhagen worth more to the Cardinals than the potential ceiling of Pacheco? Is Anthony Mizewitz? Can't even say the guy's name. I mean, Packy Naughton's got Packy Naughton. He's got
Packy
to be on the
Naughton.
edge of the 40 man. Guillermo Zuniga just took a trip down to the minors and left big league camp. Genesis Cabrera had a very choppy season last year. It is interesting. There are other names on the 40 man that you would have guessed. But I think it comes
Yeah.
down to well, first off, I think the Cardinals wanted to open up a 40-man roster spot. I think they needed
Yeah.
to. And I'm guessing they don't like what's coming back on his medicals. And the Pirates have all of the time and all of the innings to kind of like give Pacheco as much time /
Right.
runaway / whatever he needs, when obviously the Cardinals are in a position to, push for success, as opposed to whatever the Tigers are doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It is an interesting move, but on the other side of it, after talking about Pacheco himself, yeah, there's a lot of intrigue here. I mean, what else is this for other than you don't make a spot in the 40 man without intending to fill it. And the entire baseball world right now is watching Jordan Walker,
Yeah.
who had a bit of a little bit of a concern and has been asked to stop sliding head first, which, easy ask, hopeful, easy, easy to
Yeah.
implement after slashing his finger and straining his shoulder in 1 week on two head first slides. Yeah. So, but he's okay. He's in the
Yeah.
lineup today. It seems like it may be a good learning moment,
Yeah.
for that guy.
Well, it's also like to hit on the sliding thing really quick. That's something that like bat first prospects just run into. I remember a very similar type of situation with Bryce Harper, his first season and a half with the Nationals in the big leagues, where he was running into walls, stretching singles into doubles, and just playing like an absolute maniac.
Yeah.
And I think the Nationals and Rizzo kind of sat him down. We're like, hey, this is great, but we need you to hit 40 bombs a year, and you can't do that if you're injured. And I'm sure a similar conversation. Obviously, everything outside of his bat has been really promising, but his bat is the story, for Jordan Walker. So yeah, that all makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to sit here and say that this is opening up the door for Walker, but is it actually going to? Does it still depend on the next 2 weeks of performance from him? What does it look like? Um, and if this 40 spot is not open for Jordan Walker, who's it open for?
Yeah, well, there's obviously the speculation of a trade, which is always the sort of unknown that can drop at any moment, right? Um, the only thing else I could think of would maybe be another option for backup catcher that we don't know about, but you'd expect one of the other backup catchers on the 40 man to be uh, dropped out when that decision was made. So I don't know. It sure points to Jordan Walker or Mason Wynn, right? But and maybe this injury, Paul DeYoung was scratched today and has something, so it could be that. Again, just continuing to purely speculate, but without barring an outside addition, it sure seems like it's for one of the Cardinal top prospects, most likely Jordan Walker.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to go over conversations that we already tread in the episode with C70 on his show. Um, but I'll just to say it on our own show now. Like I am very pro the Cardinals making a trade. I
Right.
called out Tarek Skubal, who just got placed on the 60-day DL to kind of interact with this Freddie Pacheco pickup for the Tigers. And I'll just want to make my quick sales pitch. He's injured right now. Super talented lefty with all kinds of gas and stuff coming from the side. him being injured right now, I think that he could probably be picked up for a little less than, a dollar or 75 cents on the dollar of his value. And my thought is, if he pitches at all in 23, that's great. But you would have a young, potentially healthy, stellar starting pitcher coming into 24 when we know the Cardinals are looking really thin. And I think looking a little down the road and using some of the prospect player depth that you have, and that the Tigers need. Alavelia kind of shat the bed for like 6 years and nobody really talked about it. Like, I think people thought they were turning it around and they just didn't. And they signed Javi Baez to a bad deal, and Torkelson didn't work out just yet. And Casey Mines didn't work out just yet. And Matt Manning hasn't worked out just yet. And
Yeah.
um,
It's
I
been
don't
a
know.
lot. Well, last year was supposed to be the big Tigers. They weren't expected to win the division or anything, but it was expected to be that big step forward. And this year would maybe compete. And
Yeah.
yeah, they seem to be going in the opposite direction. But acquiring Scooble, you could keep him on the 60-day IL conceivably for the future. So wouldn't even end up using that IL, that 40-man spot until he came back.
Right.
So you could do that and still have an opening. So I don't know. It's some good late spring intrigue though. I kind of like that the Cardinals didn't immediately follow it up with whatever move they're planning. It could just be totally a Pacheco thing. There's a lot of
Yep.
talk right now about like why this happened, and it could just be they were trying to move him,
Yeah.
and now there's a spot, and it'll be filled at some point. It's not incredibly uncommon for teams to carry sub 40 on their 40 man, even going into the season, just to keep that flexibility going. So they don't necessarily have to have a designed move based off of this, but I think we all are certainly hoping that it's one specific move.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you said it with Walker and Wynn doing what they're doing. It's hard not to speculate. Really quick before we move on, Jaywalk, Skywalker, uh, Walk Daddy. What are we? Do we have a nickname for Jordan Walker yet? Is it coming, or or I don't want to force it.
Well, that was the first I heard Walk Daddy.
Yeah, that was it
And
came to me in a dream.
more like a nightmare. Yeah, I think I don't know that he has a nickname yet.
Yeah.
I saw there was like Air Jordan, but they're all
Yeah.
derivatives of that. I think we have to let it play out a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, it can just be Jordan Walker.
The Michael Jordan of baseball.
Yeah, that rolls off the tongue.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Free Walker hashtag
Wow.
Pap.
Extend Jordan Walker. Let's get a
Well,
little I think we're going to talk about it later, but how
yeah.
about a little Corbin Carroll
Man,
for Jordan Walker?
honestly, the Cardinals haven't had something like that happen in a very long time. I think it'd be very smart. Just do it now. Pay the kid.
Yeah. Well,
Make the bet.
the Braves have been doing it and it seems to be going well. The Diamondbacks are dipping their toes in it, so it's yeah, the Astros have been doing it, so it's definitely a thing.
If they announce tomorrow, like Jordan Walker, 10 years, 120, I would probably go buy the jersey. I'd be fully bought in. That would be a
Hell
blast.
yeah.
And also, yeah, just let us know he's going to be here for a really long time. Like, if there was
Yeah.
ever a kid to bet on, he seems like the one.
There seems to be no holes in his play right now.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Okay.
All right, we got to stop talking about Jordan Walker. Hopefully we're going to be talking about him for the next 10 years. So
All right.
what else we see coming out of spring?
Yeah, well, so it's funny. I wrote this note and it's already inaccurate because Dylan Carlson, he was dealing with some right arm fatigue. He was DHing and he was back in the lineup playing center field today.
Yeah.
So happy about that. Looks like Dill Carl is doing just fine. It's had a couple of tough at bats against Verlander before we started recording. Verlander was on today before we got on. So tough assignment for the Cardinals. So that's good news. Dylan is okay and playing center field. Something that is, I think we probably all could have guessed if we had our, I don't know, our magic 8-ball or whatever. Is Paul DeJong going to be on the roster? Well, pretty much that's guaranteed at this point. Jose Fermin goes down with an injury, and he's now being demoted to minor league camp. Really, that just leaves Paul DeJong as the only reasonable shortstop option on the major league roster, and it seems like he is going to be a backup infielder. I don't know exactly what that will look like, in the sense of like it's really hard for me to get behind a scenario where Paul is playing anywhere but backup shortstop because of
Yeah.
the options that we have at third base, first base, and second base. It really limits to him to just giving Tommy Edman a day off of short, which I
Or
imagine is going to
yeah.
be very few and far between.
Yeah, or like yeah, I guess Tommy Edman a day off of short specifically because Tommy Edman might be playing second base, and
Right.
so then you have yeah.
But
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
Nolan has a day off, I would give it to Gorman.
Gorman
If
or
if Arenado
Donovan.
has a day off, I would give it to
Yeah.
Gorman.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta be clear on which Nolan we're talking
Right.
about here. The Nolans, third base.
And at second base, I think you'd rather have Tommy, Donovan, Gorman start over
Yeah.
Paul any day of the week.
I mean, the only thing that he has that we don't know for sure we have on the rest of the team is the ability to play shortstop at a competent level.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like Brendan Donovan could probably also play short if we needed him to, but I understand the hesitancy to do that.
Could
So
yeah,
hell,
could Donovan play shortstop for a day here or two? Yeah. Could he play it for a week? Yeah. Could he play it for a month? Probably not. I don't know. We don't know is really the
yeah.
answer to that.
Well, if you remember last year, and this isn't exactly a 1-to-1, but we had a lot of concerns about Edmund playing shortstop. And then, here he is. Now we're like, he's the only one we want playing shortstop, you
Yeah.
know? So it's just these athletic dudes who are willing to, really put in the work and um, I guess like, I don't know, it's like sort of be humble about it, right? Like, spend the extra time with the training camps and try it out. And that's the kind of guy I get, the kind of vibe I get from a Donovan as well. So I suspect that he'd be okay at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but to the original point, like the only thing that Paul Young does that singles him out from the rest of the crew is the known ability to play shortstop at a competent or even above competent level. Like he can be a pretty good shortstop.
Yeah.
And there's worse things than your 26th man being a very good shortstop. So
Yes.
it's a very narrow thing. Usually your like backup shortstop is also your backup at like a couple other spots, or maybe they're a good pinch runner. They've got like a couple other things that are in their skill set. And you'd like to say, well, at the very least, Paul DeJong can hit a dinger here and there. And, if all we need him to do is play shortstop and hit bombs every once in a while. But even those bombs become less valuable if every single other at bat is a strikeout, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the Rognet Odor, he hit like 38 home runs in a season and was like -2 WAR or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I think both of those numbers were too high and too low, but it was something like that,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like, okay, home runs are valuable, but if everything else is bad, it does start to have a problem.
And, yeah, and I think Paul's just bitten by the team composition currently. Like we talked about all the infield options
Yeah.
all over the place. You could also put Juan Yepez as part of that conversation and Alec Burleson as part of the first base conversation. The other problem that DeYoung has is that he isn't like a lefty masher. If he was a very good defensive shortstop, right-handed hitter that could come in and beat up on lefties, that is a clear path to a valuable playing time where obviously he's on the short end of the platoon, but there's still a ton of value in that, getting Tommy off his feet, so on and so forth. But in his career, he's got a 750 OPS against right-handed pitchers and a 672 OPS against left-handed pitchers. Um,
Yeah.
Paul just doesn't make sense.
There's not a lot of there's not a lot of range here to the tool set. So we just have to hope that Edmund stays healthy and maintains an ability to play short, while Mason Wynn continues to develop. And I guess we just run out the rest of DeYoung's contract. Maybe the Cardinals
Yeah.
find a trade somewhere, and you bring in some truly glove first, just all over the place utility guy like you normally have. I don't know.
You know,
I mean,
I actually thought him going to the Dodgers after Gavin Lux went down would make some sense. The Dodgers have a pretty shallow infield,
yeah,
at least as far as the big league level right now. Looks like Miguel Vargas is going to take over second base. Their prospect that can hit, but they don't really have a guy other than the guy from Miami, who I'm forgetting his name right now. Uh, but
uh, Miguel Rojas.
Rojas, yes, Rojas
Yeah,
and Vargas. I got them mixed up. But
yeah,
Vargas is the second base prospect. Rojas is the kind of defensive wizard. I mean,
yeah.
something might happen. I don't know. Maybe Carlos Correa's ankle will explode, and the Twins will need anyone at shortstop here in the next few months. But yeah, it's kind of hard to find a dancing partner with a trade like that. The
And
Rockies,
I guess this is the risk of these extensions that we always want the team to do, right? Like I think we were pretty happy with the DeYoung extension when it happened. He was looking like one of the best shortstops in baseball. All-star, hitting tanks, hitting for a high batting average, which seems insane now, right?
yeah.
And here we are being like, well, we're hamstrung to this $9 million contract, It it's confusing. He's like the opposite Jake Woodford. He must be like best friends with Mozeliak and everyone because it's wild to me that he's still with the team. But
Well, like
it is that he's a good shortstop.
what you're
Exactly
saying,
one
just
thing.
like illustrate it, like what you're talking about. His first 3 seasons, 17, 18, and 19, he put up 11 baseball reference WAR in three
Pretty good.
seasons. Like that
Yeah.
is very, very promising. He had a 5.5 WAR season in 2019, basically being great on both sides of the ball, a tremendous defender. And then since then, he's put up about 2 WAR. I mean, it was just a cliff that he fell off of.
Right.
So yeah, it's like this is what happens. You baseball's
Yeah.
hard, as we've said. Um, I don't think we saw this coming though after those first 3 seasons.
No. No, I mean everything looked like he's exactly what you want. So
Yeah.
it is, yeah, like you said, baseball's hard. It sucks.
Yeah.
And we're obviously rooting for the guy. Like I hope that he we've gotten some good stories in the off season like we normally do about him. I don't think there's any shortage of effort coming in from him. He seems like the type of guy who, we've actually we feel at times that he's overthinking it,
Yeah.
but it's obviously, we're armchair coaches over here, so who knows? But hopefully he can, have a good season and go out with a bang with the Cardinals because he had some really good seasons with the team. But it feels
Yeah.
weird that he's still here.
It does. And there's so much young talent. It must honestly, like on just like a human level, it must be stressful. There's all of these
Yeah,
young kids, 21, 22-year-old kids coming up and doing amazing things. Like if you're Paul DeYoung and you're watching what Mason Wynn is doing at the shortstop position, there's no
yeah.
way that's not in the back of your mind at the very least being like, oh shit, like this kid's going to take the job that I wish that I had. And he is, I mean, he's a specimen. Like the things that he can do are just unbelievable.
It's like how I feel with all these AI chat robots. Like they're so much smarter than me, and like they're gonna take my podcasting jobs.
They're gonna take your podcasting job. They'll
Hmm.
probably take your wife and your kids too. I mean, what can't they do?
Well, good for them though.
Yeah,
That's probably an improvement for both sides.
yeah. I think your kids would agree with that.
Hey, I can say that. You can't say that.
Just kidding. Okay. Other Cardinals spring training news. This is a bit of a bummer. Tommy Edman headed back to Jupiter, Florida after Korea gets bounced
Yeah.
out of the WBC quickly. They got,
Yeah.
upset big time. I thought, KBO is a real league with real major league players coming out of it. Um, they just kind of didn't have it all together. It didn't really work out. Tommy Edman was okay. It was very disappointing to see he ended that game on a stolen base
Caught
attempt.
stealing. Yeah.
But he had solid defense and he was slapping the ball around a little bit. No fault of Tommy's, but kind of a bummer for Korea. As they have a great fan base that I was kind of excited to watch in Tokyo, kind of get crazy and but like I said, bounced out and good news for Cardinals fans is Tommy's coming back, which it's
Yeah.
obviously it's fun to watch him.
It's a tough format, man. Watching these games, it's been 6 years since we've had a baseball classic, and so I'd kind of forgotten about the intensity of each game, and of course I was expecting it to be intense. Besides the format, just the national side of it, but yeah, it's a tough pool, and they were definitely one of the favorites. But in a 4-game series, like anything can happen, and
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing it with the United States team. We're going to dig into the World Baseball Classic after the break, but like one of the best lineups of all time, if not the best lineup of all time, a little on edge right now,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't take much to bounce out of this tournament.
Baseball is so hard. Yeah, I know. It's crazy though. You look at that lineup and it's better than any all-star team I can remember in recent history. And they're still, you think they'd just be putting up 25 a game easy.
Yeah,
I mean, the top four alone with Mookie, Trout, Goldy, and Nato, like
it's
how do
insane.
you get all four of
Yeah.
those guys out in sequence? It's unbelievable. But yeah, it's been exciting. But anyways, happy to have Tommy back. Hopefully he'll have some good stories. Unfortunately, he's not the massive celebrity that Newt is in Korea as Newt is in Japan. But I think he can hold his head high or whatever.
Yeah, you can hold his head high or whatever. Don't worry
I
about
lost
it.
steam on that one.
You did a little bit.
Good
Well,
job, Tommy.
yeah. No, it'll be good to have him back. And hopefully we don't get Arenado and Goldy back for another couple weeks. But
Yeah,
it will be good to have them back in the camp and get the team. It's only 2.5 weeks until less than 2.5 weeks, 2 weeks and 2 days
yeah.
from right now is opening day. So not a lot of spring left. We're going to get some of these questions answered real soon. And we want to talk more about the WBC. But before we do, why don't we talk a little bit about how you can support this show?
Oh, okay.
If you are enjoying the show and want to support us, support the creation of this show and the time and effort that goes into it, consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/talking about birds. We have a bunch of tiers at different levels. But anybody who supports us gets access to our private Discord server. We call it the Bird Scored. We're having a
Tweet,
great
tweet.
time in there. Tweet, baby. Right now, we are partaking in a fantasy baseball draft. We're doing a slow draft, so it's stretching out over multiple days. And it's been a ton of fun doing this draft with the people in the Bird Scored. And hey, if you're into fantasy sports, in particular fantasy baseball, we got several people in the Bird Scored that are into that as well, and always happy to talk about fantasy sports and talk trades and strategy and whatnot. So if you're looking for a place to go and talk with people about that, the Bird Scored is becoming a place for that as well. So follow the Cardinals this year in a way you never have before, and get the Bird Scored and be a part of our community. We'd really love for you to be there. And shout out to the people that are in there now. If you are not able to do that, but still want to show your support for the show, we would appreciate it if you would take a few minutes to smash that follow button, smash that subscribe button, and also leave us a review on your
Why?
favorite podcast platform. Much like listener 11 in 11, great name, did, leaving very, very nice things. Saying, great podcast for St. Louis Cardinal fans. Well, I think you are a great St. Louis Cardinal fan. and we're happy to make a podcast for you. So,
Wow. You just reviewed the
well,
reviewer, Nate, and I think that
that's
that's really nice.
hey, that's the kind of one of the many services that we provide to
I think you're very nice, Nate.
uh, what's y'all didn't see this, but Ben's head spun 360 degrees around on his neck when he said that. So, uh, tequila.
Oh, God.
I'm bringing it back.
People love it.
Ben, where else can people find us online?
Yeah. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. We're doing a TikTok. You can check us out there if you want to see our faces. You can email us thoughts, questions, concerns, VPN troubleshooting issues, MLB.TV DNS issues. How do you watch baseball in the year of 2023 questions to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. If you're paying attention to the news, you probably are aware that the RSN issue is only getting worse. So hit us up if you have any questions about how to make that happen. You can also listen to us on Spotify if that's your preferred application for podcasting. And I'll also just double shout out the last episode of Meet Me at Mutual with C70 came out on Friday. We had a great time. We played a fun game called Star Wars or Ball Star with C70, who's a massive Star Wars fan. Highly recommend if you haven't already listened or you're not listening to him, go check out that show, and maybe the episode with us on it is a good point to jump off for that podcast. So go check them out, please.
Yeah, great show. Love being a part of it. All right, let's dig back into the WBC. This, we don't know how this is going to go. So this might be our, we might not get a lot of chances to talk about Team USA. Not that I'm, putting anything into the world here. I've never been more confident in anything in my entire life that the United States are going to advance. But it is a tough pool.
It's a tough pool, and we're recording at probably the worst possible time to keep this relevant.
Right in between.
Yes. So the America has, or USA has played Great Britain, won 6-2, which was honestly too close for a team of Great Britain's talent.
I don't know,
ceiling.
man. They also, Great Britain beat Colombia. So what a crazy upset that was.
Yes. Not to like kick them while they're down, but the jerseys that Great Britain brought could not look like more of an afterthought.
Yeah. It's like they forgot that they were doing it and they got there and they're like, shit. All right. Do you have any of those iron-on stencils?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks like
literally what it is. The T fell off of the pitcher's shirt. It's not stitched. It's like ironed on. It's so funny.
And like, I know that Great Britain baseball doesn't have the largest budget of all time, but I feel like you could go drop $100 or whatever, probably a little more than that, and get a couple of real jerseys made up. But
yeah, if you're trying to build the brand of your sport, maybe the quality of jersey, it's not the most important thing,
Yeah.
but in today's world, the image of the pitcher with the T falling off of Great Britain is like maybe the most viral thing that happened for Great Britain's baseball.
Yes.
Even though they had a massive upset win, there's a real chance that the thing that most people remember from this is the T falling off the jersey. So,
and like they have a couple of big league players. They have, they'll ask Trace Thompson for a $1,500 loan to go get some real jerseys.
So anyway, the America or United States beats them and then lost this is a brutal matchup against Mexico. Mexico's a good team. They're playing with a fiery passion that really is what makes World Baseball Classic so much fun, is seeing these teams together. And it wasn't even really close. I mean, the final score would indicate that with it was like 12-5, but even that isn't. It felt even further than that.
Yeah.
Joey Meneses, a big leaguer, had a crazy breakout for the Nationals last year. He's like 30 years old, so one of those post hype late bloomers.
After the Soto trade, he took Soto's job and out hit Juan Soto for the remainder of
Yeah,
the year. Like Joey Meneses might be somewhat real. We don't know, I guess.
yeah. I mean, it looked real that night. He hits the
Yeah.
ball hard,
Yeah.
and so this was a big blow. And not only was it a big blow, but the Team USA gave up a lot of runs, and the tiebreaker in this format is ERA. So it doesn't really matter how much you score, other than that you are inflating the other team's ERA.
Right.
But what matters most is your own. So giving up 12 runs, not great. So then they play Team Canada, which, Tyler O'Neill, Freddie Freeman, they got a few pieces, but also, considered definitely above Great Britain, but I think generally was considered in the bottom half of this pool. But Great Britain, uh, or sorry, Canada has won 2 games, which has been pretty surprising. And now uh, the Team USA won, but there's a 3-way tie
Yeah.
in the pool with Canada, Mexico, and USA all with 2 wins and 1 loss. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, and I want to really quick just shout out that not only did USA Bats just come alive, and they beat the crap out of that poor kid. I felt bad for him. I think it was like a 19 or 20-year-old minor leaguer got hit around by Betts and Trout and Goldy, Nato, and Tucker, and Tim Anderson has been on fire. But also shout out to Lance Lynn, former Cardinal, obviously, and Miles Michaelis pitching really well in that game and only giving up a few hits and 1 earned run. So that's great.
Yeah.
Also, just great to see a Cardinal be successful in the major leagues, a pitcher, or in the WBC. But yeah, like you said, so real quick, USA versus Colombia is going to be tonight. We're releasing the show tomorrow on Thursday. So this is going to be outdated. But I will say the USA is probably quite obviously heavily favored. Colombia team is fine, not absolutely littered with big leaguers. But if Team USA wins tonight, they are automatically advanced to the next round. If the United States lose, 3 teams finish with a 2-2 record, and obviously only one can advance. And that's where it starts to get into those metrics that like the ERA and other numbers that Nate was talking
Yeah.
about that act as kind of like the tiebreaker.
So big game tonight. I'm really looking forward to watching it. These games have been a ton of fun. And so if you're out there, well, shit, we're releasing this after the fact.
Yeah.
So hopefully, go Team USA, and hopefully we have some more of this to talk about next week. But overall, man, this Baseball Classic has been exactly what I was hoping for. And I obviously wish that Team USA had just crushed in all 3 games, but it's a tournament format, and this sort of stress of it, you got to win or go home, is what we're looking for here. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just really quickly looking. There's some names you might recognize on the Colombia team. Jorge Alfaro, solid player. Elias Diaz, catcher for the Rockies. They got Dilson Herrera, Evan Mendoza, Gio Urshela, and hey, the Cardinals' own Oscar Mercado. I don't think I knew that he was from Colombia, but so there's obviously Oscar Mercado. He's on the outside of the 26-man roster for the Cardinals. He's a good, not great player at all. But I think Mexico, if Team USA learned anything from that Mexico matchup, is you can't take anyone lightly. And like you're talking about, Great Britain can win, Canada can win, anything can happen in these short game series or these 1-game matchups and these this tournament style play. So, man, I really hope we don't release this episode right after
I know.
USA gets eliminated. But let's stop talking about that so we don't curse it.
Yeah. So on a more positive note, Goldy and Arenado, I think they've looked really good in this.
They
They
have.
are the heart of the lineup. obviously you've got Mike Trout batting in the 2 spot. He's the guy on the
Yeah.
team, and the way everyone's been talking about him, and the broadcast has been talking about him, you get the sense that there's a reverence for Mike Trout above all else. But right behind him, you got Arenado and Goldy, right there in the heart of the lineup, and they've been good. We've seen some great Arenado plays, and both guys are swinging the bat well, which is good for the purposes of what they're there for. It's also it's just been like that first game, just watching, I was like, oh man, it's just fun to watch them take at bats that they care about. Because spring is one thing, and
Right.
like we all like spring training because it's a symbol of what's coming. But I think we just like the intensity level. There's just a difference about Arenado in a game that matters versus a spring training game, and Goldy as well. And so it's been a lot of fun to watch them, and just the way the team. We've seen Waino talking about it, Arenado, Goldy, just what it means for them to be out there to play in this tournament. You can tell they're loving it, and I don't know. There's so many narratives that you can pull from this, and we can craft our own narratives. But you have to imagine that like this sort of thing is got to be a huge kickoff to the season for
Oh
them.
yeah.
It may be a little anticlimactic going back to spring training after this, but if they have a great rest of the tournament, it just feels like it's setting you up to hit the ground running going
Yeah.
into the full season.
Yeah. And like, we didn't talk about this so much last year because Paul kind of kicked the habit, but Goldie kind of a known slow starter. I know it's only a few games, but he's rocking over 1,000 OPS in the World Baseball Classic. He obviously looked good in spring training before he came out to the World Baseball Classic. Like, I think we are
Yeah,
getting ready for Goldie to have another massive, massive year, and I'm really looking forward to that. He's got 4 walks to 1 strikeout in the WBC right now. Him and Nolan both are having OPS over 1,000. Yeah, it's been a
yeah.
lot of fun.
Did you see the play where he is an insane play? McNeil's range to his left, and he throws it and it short hops Goldie, and so
Oh yeah,
bounces off the heel of his glove. It was like the saddest I've ever seen Paul
I
Goldschmidt was
know.
when he could have made that play. I think he makes it probably a fair amount of times, but it was really tough. Bad bounce, everything about it was just sort of unlucky. But still, he looks so sad, and he
Yeah,
just normally doesn't care, or not normally doesn't care. He obviously cares immensely, but he doesn't show it on his face
he's
very
a bit of
much.
an automaton. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I was like, oh, poor Goldie. It's okay. America still loves you.
We do.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Well, good luck, United States,
yeah,
and we'll still, even if they get bounced, we'll still cover it through the rest of the tournament. I think we immediately all become Team Japan stands. We all are already,
yeah.
but we will even more so. Japan's about to run out of pepper grinders. Did you see that there's a soccer team in Japan that was doing the pepper grinder
Oh
thing
my
now too?
god,
It's like a full on thing now in Japan. It's expanding across multiple
man!
sports.
Newt is like he's like not going to be able to walk the streets of Japan here soon, or he might
Yeah.
already be there.
They're they're selling New Bar pins in the
Yeah,
Tokyo Dome, and man, I want one. So
yeah,
if there's anyone who's listening who somehow has access to one of these,
yeah,
let me know your price.
yeah.
Because I want one of them. I'm sure you do too, Ben.
Yeah, email talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. Let's figure this out
Yeah.
because I would
I
love that.
I'm not a big collectible guy, but like, ooh, that would be fun to
Yeah.
have. So,
Yeah, I think you're right. I was thinking DR. I mean, the good news is there's still Cardinals players all over the World Baseball Classic, so we have tons of
yeah.
stuff to root for. But I think you're right. Probably go the way of Japan, and Otani and Newt. The connection there is just too strong to be denied. I'm here for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously the Dominican Republic team is phenomenal as well. It would be an easy team to root for. But gotta root for Newt.
Yeah, that's
I'm rooting tooting for
oh
Newton. All right.
no.
Yikes.
What before we move on to our Cubs preview, the one other thing I wanted to hit on with the WBC, I just find this story amazing, and this is part of why the WBC is so cool. A team Nicaragua pitcher, and I'm sorry if I butcher this, but I believe it is uh, Duke Hebert. Duke Hebert. That doesn't sound like a Nicaraguan name. I feel like I'm mispronouncing it. Anyways, a relative no name. He's a 21-year-old kid, not really on anyone's radar. He came into a game against the DR, struck out in order Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, and Rafi Devers. I would argue 3 top 10 hitters in baseball
Yeah.
in the game. And about an hour after the game was completed, the Tigers signed him to a contract, which is just, I mean, that's a movie level story. And if you haven't seen this kid pitch, he's got insane arm action, and that changeup is disgusting. Like he probably a 1 inning relief guy, but he is going to play in the big leagues. I mean, it is nasty stuff.
Yeah, it made me think of so the Olympics are also kind of known for this, where people will utilize the stage of the Olympics as well as just the access of like getting out of their country, but that's a whole other thing that is like far more complicated than I can really speak intellectually on. But like this idea of maybe a team or a part of the world that's not scouted as heavily
Yeah.
as where as the places that we're all familiar with are. Utilizing the World Baseball Classic as a place to showcase your skills against big league hitters and parlaying that into a contract, I think is pretty incredible. It's one of the cooler stories to come from this, and I don't know. I haven't done any research on it. Maybe this isn't the first time it's happened, but I definitely don't think it's the last
Yeah.
time that it's going to happen. It's really cool. I'm really excited for that guy. There's a great picture of him sitting with Juan Soto, and he just looks like the happiest person on earth. And he
Yeah.
might have been in that
Yeah.
moment.
Oh,
I
I bet,
mean,
yeah.
get a big league contract after a single half inning
Yeah.
in a tournament. Like it's awesome, and
Yeah.
I hope he keeps it running, runs it up.
Yeah.
Gets on the team.
And I'll say, like, I highly actually, I'll find the video and I'll tweet it out once we're done recording. So check on our Twitter feed to see the video of these 3Ks, because you'll see Juan Soto tips his cap to the kid. Like he's like that is nasty. Thank you so much. I'm going to go sit down now in a very heated competition. That
Yeah,
speaks to, well, first off, how fun Juan Soto is, and also how stupid nasty his stuff is.
yeah. Yeah, it's super cool. I hope that he continues to have success and that other people are able to utilize something like this and get work towards a better life for them and their family. So,
Yeah.
um, cool. Yeah. So let's talk about our favorite subject, the Chicago Cubs. So if
Yeah.
you're just hopping on the show, we've been breaking down the other teams in the NL Central. We've been going from worst to first. So we started with the Reds. Last week we talked about the Pirates, and now this week we're going to talk about the Cubs.
Yeah.
And so now we are getting into actually interesting, potentially competitive teams. This is going to be a really interesting season for the Cubs.
Yeah.
Hopefully it goes more like the way of the Detroit Tigers. But I think we both kind of think that the Cubs are doing something smart and interesting over there. So why don't you kick it off for us, Ben?
Yeah, we'll start this like we've been starting the others, and just talk about the notable losses for the Cubbies. Obviously, number one with a bullet, Wilson Contreras. Not only does he leave the Cubbies, but he goes to their rival,
Got him.
which is the Cardinals. Obviously, I don't think I need to break that much more down. We all know what's going on there. We're happy to have Wilson. I think it signals, we've talked about there's some background going around on what the Cubs are looking for. And obviously Wilson Contreras wasn't that, which I think is fine and dandy. They've taken an interesting approach to augmenting their team. They've also lost Wade Miley. and Jason Hayward. And Jason Hayward looks likely to break the 26 man with the Dodgers at this point, which is kind of crazy. It looks like that he's going to be a left-handed bat and a center fielder, which is partially due to the Gavin Lux injury, because their primary center fielder, or I would guess Trace Thompson and Chris Taylor were going to be their center field combination, and now Chris Taylor's probably going to be playing a lot of short all over the place because of Gavin Lux. Anyways, crazy that Jay Hay, the once Cardinal, the terrible Cub, is likely to be a productive Dodger. Take that
Yeah.
for whatever it is.
I mean, he delivered a hell of a speech in that 2016 World Series, though. Let us not forget.
Uh,
Yeah, he hit an absolute tank in spring training earlier.
yeah.
But just looking it up, and man, last year he only had 151 plate appearances for the Cubs, and he put up a negative point for Fangraphs WAR. So it's very surprising that he's able to catch on anywhere, let alone the Dodgers. But it's the stupid Dodgers. They just have this, like vibe around them now that anyone who goes there will find success and be, some sort of crazy reclamation project. So stupid. What's going to end up happening is we're going to lose a game this year off of a Jason Hayward home run that Alex Reyes comes in and closes the door on it. It's going to be super frustrating. But
I hate you for saying that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Dodgers are in a weird spot too. They're not the team that they were the year before, or 2 years ago. The Dodgers that we've known the last 5 years wouldn't have space for Jason Hayward on the team, but they're obviously grasping a little bit as well. So it doesn't necessarily, the odds of him becoming anything other than basically what he was for the Cubs, but with the Dodgers, are still pretty low.
Yeah. We're not talking about the Dodgers right now, but they kind of did a similar thing with Noah Syndergaard, essentially bringing in him for cheap as a reclamation project. And
Yeah,
they have a great player dev system, and it is unbelievably impressive. Moving back to the Cubs, they have a lot of additions, so I'm going to list all of the additions out, and if you want to, you just start blabbering about whoever you want to blabber about. But
how about you say them all, and then we'll
what I'm
sort of,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, yeah, don't cut me off. Be a gentleman. All right. And these are going in descending order of guaranteed money. So, I guess keep that in the back of your mind. Dansby Swanson, Jamison Taillon, Cody Bellinger, Drew Smiley, Trey Mancini, Brad Boxberger, Michael Fulmer, Eric Hosmer, Edwin Rios, and Tucker Barnhart. So quite a list of, obviously, a wide variance on names here. I guess, clearly Dansby Swanson, the biggest acquisition by the Cubbies this offseason. An interesting acquisition, too, as we think, or I am of the belief that he played a bit over his shoes last year. They are sliding a very, very good defensive shortstop to second base to make room for him. And then I'll go for one more second. That signing and the Cody Bellinger signing means that their up the middle defense has gone from fine to extremely good. I think I can say that with a ton of confidence. Cody Bellinger is going to play great in center. Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner are going to play great up the middle in the infield. Are those bats going to show up? I have absolutely no idea. I don't think the Cubs do either.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked a lot about the Swanson signing when it happened, but I'll say that the Cardinals were in that conversation a lot too, and I was not for the Cardinals signing Swanson, especially after we saw the contract that he got, and I pretty much feel the same sentiment towards the Cubs signing him, in that I don't think it's going to be a great deal for them.
Yeah.
And now, does that mean in 2023? I don't know. He could be good again, or he could repeat what he did last year. But I don't know that the power is real. He's definitely going to be serviceable. He's definitely going to play a good defense and give you a good plate approach. But that overall profile looks a lot different if he loses some of that power.
Yeah.
And we'll see. Now, on the flip side, I really wanted the Cardinals to sign Cody Bellinger. I think there's enough there to take a flyer on it. And I think it was pretty smart by the Cubs, because if he's bad, well, whatever. They have so much money. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
if he's really good, then either you have a great midseason trade target to, ship out, or you've established a good relationship with someone that you can then extend and have as a core piece of your team for a while.
Right.
Or maybe both, which the Cubs have done before. They trade someone and then sign them in the offseason again, So I think it's a pretty low risk move for a team that isn't expecting to win this year. It's like worst case scenario, they just have a bad Cody Bellinger for a year and all it cost them was money. So I think it was pretty smart signing. And I think we saw a lot of that from the Cubs this year. There's a good mixture of, um, long-term choices like Tyon and Dansby, and then shorter-term things like Mancini and Bellinger that will either set the possibility for long-term or just be really good trade targets.
Yeah.
And they've shown an ability to make good trades. We were all pretty confused last year why they didn't trade Contreras or Hap, but it is what it is. Who knows what that market was like. And so I don't know. I mean, this is the team that like it with these additions, if all of them click the way that they want them to, and their returning pieces also take a step forward, I don't know that they're inherently a competitor for the NL Central,
Yeah.
but if enough things also go wrong for the Cardinals and the Brewers, the Cubs could sneak in with like a classic bad division win, where they get like 86 games and that's somehow enough to beat the Cardinals or the Brewers. Like very low likely outcome, but they're at least like that's if you're running this simulation,
Yeah.
a million times, that probably happens a few times.
Yeah. And I think there are that scenario where Cody pops and Mancini hits 30 bombs again. That's a realistic scenario that should and would scare the Cardinals. Eric Hosmer, I think, surprised he has a big league job, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
And then I think like Edwin Rios, Michael Fulmer, Brad Boxberger, those are deals that could be really, really solid for the Cubs. They could be absolutely nothing, or they could just be trade targets.
Right.
Totally agree with you. Moving on, the youngsters to watch with the Cubbies. I think the big question for that is this the year that Brandon Davis makes his way to the big leagues? He's their best prospect, young kid, outfielder, big old dude with power tools. He's fast, hits the ball hard, throws the ball hard. All those things. I think it's likely if he doesn't break camp with the team, he will likely be up relatively soon. And then I also think, what is Christopher Morel become? What is he? Does he kind of stay as a solid defender with some pop? Does he kind of make his way and steal a job somewhere? Does he stick in the outfield? He had an over 30% strikeout rate last year in 22, but did a lot of great things at the same time.
Yeah, both interesting players. Brennan Davis, more of the well-regarded prospect going through the normal process of developing, and Christopher Morel kind of coming out of nowhere on the scene last year, and great power speed combo. But yeah, that hit tool, that's the concern.
Yeah,
If he can't keep those strikeouts down, he'll be exploited and won't be able to maintain that success. But he's a fun player
yeah,
and he can play multiple positions. I'll be also interested to see how Pete Crow Armstrong develops. He was a big piece in the Javi Baez trade with the Mets. He is incredibly unlikely to make the majors this year, but this is a big year for him in their system.
yeah,
A lot of people project him to be, um, approaching top prospect in baseball level of hype by the end of this year. So that's another thing to keep an eye out as the year develops.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it speaks to how good this Bellinger deal is for the Cubbies, right? They have a great center fielder who could be something even better. And basically, by the time Bellinger is ready to go out after this year, Pete Crow Armstrong should be ready to take over that center field job. I guess
Yeah.
we'll see how that plays out. Um, some of the big questions, I'm curious if you'll agree with these for the Cubbies going forward is Seiya Suzuki the real deal? Is he the right fielder that's going to kind of take over? Is he going to be a 2020 guy or even more going forward? And then another question on the player side is Kyle Hendricks on his way out. He's been in a throwing program, trying to increase his velocity over the offseason, doing everything he can to kind of keep in the game. He obviously took a big step back from what he used to be last year. But anyways, those are I think the two big questions for the Cubbies going into this season.
Yeah, I do think Seiya Suzuki's going to be good. He looked really good the last couple months in the season. He dealt with some injuries, and despite all of that, and he's a rookie, he still put up a 116 WRC plus, and the projection systems are kind of all over the place for him, but most are projecting him to be somewhere in the 125 to 130 WRC plus range, and so I think there's a lot of eyes on Suzuki right now, and I kind of am a fan. As far as Hendricks goes, I mean it's like that's emblematic of the real problem with the Cubs and the reason why you can't really put a lot of prediction on them being anything other than maybe a surprise contender in a bad
Yeah.
division is that their starting pitching is just not good. Tyon is probably going to be good, but after that it falls apart very quickly, and they're like a step down from the Cardinals.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's like the same sort of thing. Like the Cardinals have a bunch of twos and threes, and the Cubs have a bunch of threes and fours. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, Marcus Stroman at the top. He's probably still the best starting pitcher on that team. He's also on the wrong side of 30, though. We'll
yeah,
see kind of how that plays out for him. Um, the other questions I have, we kind of talked about this. Will the run prevention plan work? My quick answer on that is yes. I think it's definitely improved. I think that's probably the cheapest way to improve your plan quickly is hiring solid defenders. But like you're talking about, not sure the pitching is enough to make up for all of that. And then the other big question is, are the Cubbies going to be selling at this year's deadline?
yeah, I think so. Unless it is a full unless everything is broke right for them,
Right.
I think they'd be. I have to imagine this year is another year. The plan is to sell.
Yeah. All right. So, final question for the Cubbies, Nate. They are projected to be by Fangraphs to have a negative 55 run div. Not great. And 75 wins to 87 losses this year. Are you going to take the under or over on 75 wins for the 2023 Cubbies?
That's a good line. I think I've gone under on all of the other on the Reds and the Pirates. I've said already I am a believer in Suzuki. I think the Bellinger signing was good. I think Swanson probably not a great long-term solution, but I could see him repeating his year or having a good year with the Cubs. I'm gonna go over,
Okay.
but I don't think it's gonna be by much. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the over.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the under on that just because the pitching is not enough to my liking. The bullpen isn't great. No one in there really scares me. And the offense just isn't there enough to get it done. I think they've improved them. They've raised their floor absolutely. But I also think that they're going to be selling at some point, and they're going to
Yeah,
get even worse. And I think they're going to be below 75.
that's a good point. The last 2 months of the season, if they sell whatever is working, could end up dropping them below that. I'll stick with my over, but that is an interesting point.
Yeah. All right. That's your Cubbies.
All right, next week we're going to wrap this up by talking about the Brewers, but now we're going to check in on the rest of the league. A little bit of news over the last week. What do you want to talk about, Ben?
Yeah, let's get into it. Jose Quintana, Cardinal legend, is going to be out at least until July. He is a Met now. He's getting rib surgery. He had a lesion on his rib that is luckily benign, but obviously not great for him. Not great for the Mets. The Mets are, um, equipped to handle this, but bad news for Jose Quintana. Hopefully, he gets back healthy quickly. Um, In other news, we kind of were flirting with this earlier, but a couple of big extensions to young kids. Corbin Carroll and the Diamondbacks agreed to an 8-year, $111 million deal. The Nationals also signed Keeber Ruiz to an 8-year extension worth at least $50 million.
Man, so the Corbin one, I think, is, it's cool. Good for him. Good for the team. He sure seems like there's no real such thing as a can't miss prospect, but if you're going to pick one, a guy like that is usually the ones that you're betting on. It has essentially elite capabilities at everything in baseball,
Yeah.
So even if he doesn't end up being a superstar, best in baseball, like sure seems like he's going to be a competitive major league player for a long time. So it's cool. Good for him.
Yeah.
And the Keybert one, just any catcher, like I'm like, it's such a complicated, challenging position. He seems as good a catching prospect as anyone else, and he seemed pretty good last year. This was a little more surprising to me because you don't normally see these sorts of gambles on catchers before they truly click. But I mean, good for him. We're
Yeah.
we're always a fan of these sorts of things when they get like a ton of money. But yeah, this one's a little riskier to me. I was more surprised by this.
Yeah. Yeah. I love catchers. Giving a catcher that much money definitely, it's an interesting move. But good for the Nationals. It's kind of a sign that they're moving forward.
Yeah,
Um, this is not news, but I had to put it because, come on, Jerks and Profar, sign soon. Rockies are showing serious interest in Jerks and Profar, hoping that deal gets done here fairly soon before spring training is over, and we can finally end that game, even though it's technically ended. But just another thing to note. Carlos Rodon is set to officially begin the season on the IL, having a little bit of left forearm issue. We are obviously hoping it's just going to be a couple of weeks. But of course, an issue this early in the spring pushes back his whole throwing program, and he's going to miss opening day. Um,
yeah. It's interesting that Quintana and Rodon both are starting the season with injuries.
I know. And I'm not like cherry picking the news to make Cardinals fans feel better. This is just what
Yeah,
happened. Like
yeah,
well,
it's true.
as we've talked about, like this is what pitchers do.
Yeah. Rodon, it was announced today that they think he may only need to miss 1 or 2 starts, but you never like the left forearm strain. You never want to strain in the throwing arm. Like
No,
it's usually not a setup for a good season.
no, it is not.
Yeah. He fell real far in our fantasy draft too,
Yes,
so
he did.
I scooped him up though, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure he is falling in quite a few fantasy drafts, even though he might be a top 3 pitcher in baseball. It is
Yeah.
that health issue is just it's ever present with
Yeah.
him. All right, moving on to a little less fun news, but I guess this is good news. MLB completes Mike Clevinger investigation. No discipline forthcoming. So it should be noted, Mike Clevinger fully cooperated with this. MLB and an arbiter investigated like thousands and thousands of electronic
Yeah.
communication, phone calls, testimonials. Mike Clevinger has fully cooperated with MLB. He is doing ongoing treatment with MLB and with outside parties, and he's free and clear. So, I'm not going to read through the depositions and everything like that, but I think while this situation looked really bad, at the point where we're sitting right now with the information that we have, it seems like it was uh, a lot of smoke and nothing there. And hopefully that means that nobody was hurt and nothing terrible
Yeah.
happened. But I think it needs to be just talked about the fact that, he's free and clear. He will be a White Sox this year. He is trying to come back and try to put his career back on course. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's important that we're intellectually consistent here. We went very hard on Trevor Bauer, and the evidence dictated that, and the arbiter dictated that, and punishment was handed down, and we're following that guidance. And now, as you said, everything's gone through. There were no charges. Everything was dropped. The arbiter found no breaking of MLB policy, and we don't know truly what happened, but as far as the rules of the game go and as far as the expectations of the players, he's good. So
Yeah.
uh Yeah. So, hopefully we don't hear anything about this from him or anything like this about him again.
Yeah.
And we can all just move on and he can be, have a good year for the White Sox.
Yeah. Speaking of fun issues like this, Trevor Bauer signs with Nippon Professional Baseball League's Yokohama Dene Bay Stars. It's a $4 million year deal, $4 million 1 year deal. Um, it
Yeah.
is what
Good.
it
All
is.
right. Get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here. I am um slightly surprised, but very happy that MLB has decided to take a hard line on this. The value add prop that is Trevor Bauer for his cost to potential WAR and value add to your team really made me think that somebody was going to bring him in. Because it's hard not to. It's a lot of surplus value and a PR hit, and I could see a analytically mind baseball ops person making that argument, and I'm sure that they did. Anyways, I'm happy with our result here.
Yeah. Same. I thought cold monster was gonna. I thought Steve Cohen was gonna sign him. That guy is a dirtbag, so I thought he'd bring in other dirtbags. But
Sure.
I mean, I still think there's a possibility that he's back next year. He's going to go and do this for a year, and someone will say, "Hey, the Heat's died down. Let's bring him in." Especially if he does good
If he
for this
dominates
team.
state, yeah, I
Yeah,
think we'll have this conversation a year from now. I think you're
yeah.
right. Yeah.
But hey, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So in the moment, the MLB, all the MLB organizations made the right choice,
Yeah.
and we can be happy about that. So, uh, good riddance.
Bye.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's everything, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're going to end with a little segment here. We've been using this segment sometimes as a prediction game, and we're going to do it again as we continue our predictions for 2023 season. So that's right. We're playing another round of If You Had To.
If you had to.
All right. So, Ben, if you had to predict right now the winners of the big three awards in the 2023 season,
Yeah.
what would your predictions be? So, we're talking MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year on each side of within each league.
Yeah. How about do you want to do it like I'll say my two MVPs, you say your two MVPs, and then we go like that?
Yeah,
Is that fun?
that's fun. I think that's fun.
He's convinced. It's fun. Okay.
It's fun.
All right.
We're having fun now.
All right. My AL MVP prediction
Mm-hmm.
is Shohei Ohtani. I think he is going to dominate. I think he is going it's not that big of a stretch, right? He's the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
He is going into a contract year. I think he's not that this guy needs any more motivation. He's going to be in conversation for the Cy Young. He's going to win the MVP. It is going to be a season for the ages. It's going to be impressive. I cannot wait for it.
Yeah.
And on my NL MVP, I'm going to vote somebody a little less obvious. But I think this is the year that we get a healthy Ronald Acuna Jr. I think he flirts with a 40-40 season. He's a little older. He's like 25. he's a little wiser. And I think he's just gonna just absolutely dominate. One of my favorite players in baseball. I hope he runs away with it.
Yeah, great choice. And I think we would all have a lot of fun with a Acuna back at MVP level. Last year, he was returning from the ACL injury and still had a very good year for someone coming off an ACL injury. So seems primed to be successful this year. And Otani, yeah, that's like he should have won last year, and
Yeah,
Judge had like one of the best offensive seasons of the last like 30 years, and it still should have been Otani. Not that Judge wasn't deserving, but what Otani's doing is unreal.
yeah,
Okay, so for my picks, I thought about doing Otani, and I have ultimately decided not to, even though I think it's probably the safest pick. What I think is going to happen is a guy that Ohtani previously beat, who also had a monster year. He had a little bit of a down year last year, but he's still 23, I think. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's going to have a season like he did in 2021. We're talking over 300 batting average, 40 plus bombs. He's going to lead the Blue Jays right back into the playoffs, and he's going to look great doing it. Dude's insane.
Yeah.
So
Love
big
it.
fan of Vlad Jr. And for my NL MVP pick, I wanted to go Arenado here, but I'm not going to be a homer.
Yeah.
And even though I think that's a good pick, I think this is going to be the year that the projections and the perception and all of that become reality. And Juan Soto goes off for the San Diego Padres. It's a stacked lineup, so he's going to get all the counting stats that do ultimately matter in these sorts of things. I think it's going to be a monster year for Juan Soto. 400 plus OBP, 40 plus bombs. He's going to do it all. Hell, he'll probably even steal 8 to 12 bags, So I think this is the year Juan Soto, forever considered a MVP player, but hasn't actually put it together to that degree yet. It's all coming together this year. We're talking Bryce Harper 2015 sort of season.
Love it.
All right.
Love me Juan Soto.
Yes. All right. Cy Young.
Yeah, man, this one is so hard because of health, because of everything. But yeah, I got my picks. I am going to say that for our AL Cy Young, Alek Manoah, he had his first full season in the big leagues last year. Took a little step back up on strikeouts, but this guy pitches every day or every fifth day. Absolute horse. I think he's going to have a little uptick in his strikeouts. I absolutely love everything about him. Watching him is a blast. And I think he's going to go the distance and win the AL Cy Young. And I think he's going to have like 20 more innings pitched than anyone else in the conversation. That is my prediction.
Yeah, I mean it's a fun one too. It's a fun team. The young guy, like I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah. For my NL Cy Young, I'd love to say, Jack or something like that, but I'm going to go with Aaron Nola. He's kind of I don't know, is he second fiddle or not in Philadelphia? I'm not sure. He is going into a contract year. His stuff is just nasty. I think he's underrated. And I think he's going to have kind of that career year right before he goes into the free agency, and the Cardinals are going to get second place and signing him over the offseason. But all things will be good for Aaron Nola. I'll go Aaron Nola for my NL Cy Young.
Yeah, I think he's typically seen as like number 2 behind Zach Wheeler. But after last year, if you really pick apart the numbers, Nola was incredible. And, he seems to be still on an upward trajectory where Wheeler's getting a little older. So we'll see. I hope you're wrong because I don't want I've never liked the Phillies. And then after that, so. All right. So for me, AL Cy Young. This might be tricky. We'll see if they give him the innings or not. But I'm a big fan of Shane McClanahan down in Tampa Bay. Breakout year 2022. He does everything, strikes him out, keeps the ball down. I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And the only thing holding him back is if he can get that inning level that is typically needed. But the Rays do let their guys go once they've ascended to that level.
Yeah.
And I think, he's ready to do that. So,
man, he picked apart the Cardinals in a start last year. When he is on, he is just nasty.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of his. All right. And stupid Rays. They're just like, oh, yeah. Hey, guess what? We've got this guy now. I've been really torn on who's going to get the NL Cy Young. There's a good blend. I like your pick, although I also hate it.
Thanks.
And I've kind of settled. I think it's gonna be one of the two old men on the Mets.
I almost went with Scherzer.
Yeah, and so I'm actually not gonna do Scherzer. I'm gonna go Verlander is one of the best pitchers of all time.
Yeah.
What he did last year with the Astros is insane. Um, the Mets are as good a team as the Astros, likely, or at least close. And I see no other than the freak. He's 40 years old. Like, you never know when he's gonna break, but if he's healthy, he's clearly capable. And so last year was a truly insane year for him, and I don't think he's gonna be that good, but he doesn't have to do that again to get another Cy Young.
Sub 2 ERA. Yeah, you don't need to do that every year.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Verlander on this one. All right, and our last category, Rookie of the Year. There's a fun one. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go for my AL Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go with Grayson Rodriguez. He is likely to break camp with the Orioles. The dude's just a freak. He's a stud. The Orioles are good. There's a good defense behind him, and I think he's going to strike everyone out. Super tough division, of course, but he'll have every opportunity to kind of run away with it. So I'm going Grayson.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be great. And then NL, Nathan
Benjamin.
you hear the way I talk on this podcast. There's really only one name I can say here. And I'm going with our very own Jordan Sky Walker. As
Walk Daddy.
As my NL Rookie of the Year. I do think he's going to come up at some point, and I think he's going to hit at least 20 bombs, and he's going to just be impressive. I know it sounds like a homer pick. I really buy it. I think probably the Vegas money or the smart money's on Corbin Carroll because of the stolen bases and so on and so forth. But I'm going to take a big man over a little man. That's just how my brain works. And Corbin Carroll, he's so small.
Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I mean, let me just get to mine. So I am also picking an Oriole for my AL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And I think Grayson's a good choice. And I think often that a pitcher doesn't have to have a lights out year as a rookie to win the Rookie of the Year. I think there's a little bit of bias towards a really good young pitcher for this award. So I think it's a good choice. But I'm going to go with the young slugger Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah. He is impressive.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that he is a shortstop. I mean, he's going to be playing third base for them, but that size and he's a freak.
Yeah. And he might end up playing short for them still. So I think he'll end up playing both this year.
Yeah.
He looks good. Despite all the Orioles ownership issues, they've got some really exciting young players.
Yeah.
So it feels pretty safe that the AL Rookie of the Year will be an Oriole.
Yeah.
Whether it's Grayson or Gunnar, we'll see. And then finally for my NL Rookie of the Year, look, Ben, we're a Cardinal podcast, okay? We avoided Arenado as our pick for NL Rookie or NL MVP, even though he took third last year. It'd be a safe pick. We're not picking Jack Flaherty to have a miraculous bounce back and win the Cy Young, even though, we want to. But I think we both can feel justified in our selection as Jordan Walker
as
the winner of the NL Rookie of the Year. So I gotta go, I gotta go Walker as well. What are we doing here if we're not predicting Jordan Walker as our NL Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, he's just amazing, right? And we're gonna get to watch it here pretty soon, almost every day, and I can't wait for it. Corbin Carroll's gonna be good. Andrew Painter might. Andrew Painter just got injured.
He's hurt. Yeah,
never mind.
Maybe one of the Yuri Perez or something. There's always a bunch of rookies. The Braves will unleash some dude that we've never heard of that will go on and do 2020 in half a season. And then sign an $80 million extension.
Yeah.
you never know. It's one of the, all these awards are difficult to predict.
There's a chance Tristan Casas hits like 35 bombs quickly. Like, we'll see what happens. But I feel good on our picks here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. We're going to continue doing little predictions soon. We'll do a full on like bold predictions for the 2023 Cardinals here in an upcoming episode before the season starts too. So in one of the next 2 episodes, but otherwise, thank you all for listening. As always, once again, please consider checking out the Patreon. Thanks again to our patrons. We truly appreciate you and what you've done for the show. And we will be back next week, hopefully to celebrate the continued dominance of the United States World Baseball Classic team. And we'll have more good breakdowns of the spring training news. And we're only a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
So until next week, go Cardinals.
I hope Merrill Kelly is good tonight. Thank you. Bye.